5 years ago, two coworkers named Christoph and Anna made the exact same salary. $82,000, same office, same starting line. One spent those 5 years obsessed with money, 6 monitors in the spare room, candlestick charts, trades before sunrise. The other did, as far as anyone could tell, almost nothing. Today, the one who did almost nothing is over $100,000 richer. And here's the part that should bother you. That's not the exception. That's the rule. I met Christoph at a barbecue where he pulled out his phone to show me his trading dashboard like it was a newborn. Across the yard, Anna ate a hot dog and said nothing about money at all, so I did the thing I spend too much of my life doing. I investigated all 8 of the ways people swear will build wealth, ran the actual math on everyone, and watched 5 of them quietly fall apart. By the end, I'll show you the exact trap Christoph fell into. And whether you're already standing in it, my name is Nick, and I've spent an embarrassing chunk of my one short life figuring out why some people escape the money treadmill while everyone else just runs faster on it. If you're tired of watching your bank balance hover around the same depressing number, no matter how hard you grind, subscribe, because today we're separating the methods that actually move the needle from the ones that just feel like they do. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor, and this isn't financial advice. This is just a guy who reads spreadsheets for fun, telling you what the numbers say once you stop listening to the people selling the dream. Here's the one idea you need before we start. Every wealth method has a ceiling and a median. The ceiling is the one guy who got rich doing it. The median is what happens to a normal person who tries. Gurus sell you the ceiling. You live at the median. I'm gonna call that the ceiling lie. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And here's why it matters more than it looks. The most valuable thing you own isn't money. It's time, because time is the one ingredient compounding can't run without. Every year you pour into one of the losing 5 is a year of compounding you can never buy back at any price. So getting these 8 sorted isn't trivia. It's the difference between starting the clock now and starting it a decade late. Let's start with the worst one. Number 1, day trading. Buying and selling stocks fast enough that you never actually own anything, you just rent the price for an afternoon. This is Christoph's whole personality, so let's be fair to it. The pitch is intoxicating. You, a regular person beating Wall Street from your spare bedroom, no boss, no commute, just you in the candlesticks. And there's the ceiling lie in its purest form. Researchers in Brazil tracked people who day traded for a living over hundreds of days, and about 97% of them lost money. Of the ones who stuck with it, barely 1 in 100 made more than a minimum wage job, and they did it, the researchers wrote, with enormous risk. A study out of Taiwan followed day traders for over a decade and found fewer than 1% could reliably turn a profit after costs. Less than 1%, and here's what nobody mentions. Every trade has a spread, a fee, a tax. The market doesn't have to beat you, it just takes a small toll on every lap, while your own brain, greedy at the top, terrified at the bottom, does the rest of the damage for free. So no, Christoph isn't dumb, he's smart and disciplined and playing a game where the house edge is built into the physics. Day trading isn't hard. It's nearly impossible, dressed up as hard, the single most reliable way on this whole list, to turn money and time into neither. Which brings us to number 2, crypto. And before the comments riot, I'm not saying the technology is fake, I'm saying the wealth math is not what you were sold. Most coins produce nothing. No rent, no earnings, no dividend. The only way you make money is if someone shows up later willing to pay more than you did. Congratulations, you've discovered the world's most volatile way to hand your savings to someone richer than you, and we know who that someone is. The Bank for International Settlements studied millions of crypto users and found that as Bitcoin's price climbed, the small retail buyers piled in while the largest holders quietly sold to them. When the dust settled, roughly 3 out of 4 of those retail users were sitting on losses. 3 out of 4. The money didn't vanish. It moved from the people watching the videos to the people who don't need to. And the ride there? We saw it again in the 2025 cycle. Bitcoin hits a massive new high. The hype goes nuclear, then it claws back 60 or 70% of that value in a few months, leaving the latecomers holding the bag. It's a loop, and in 2026, we're still watching people fall for it. Could you get lucky? Sure, people win the lottery too, but buy the thing and pray the next guy pays more isn't a plan. It's a vibe, and a vibe is a beautiful ceiling sitting on a median that just got liquidated. Fine place to gamble a little, terrible place to build a foundation. Two down, both losers. You might be sensing a pattern and you'd be right, but stick with me because number 3 has the slickest sales funnel of them all. The real estate hacks. Not buying a home to live in, I mean the empire stuff. Buy it, rehab it, rent it, refinance, repeat. Short-term rentals. The guy on Instagram with 12 doors by 26. So let me tell you about that guy. Call him Tyler. In 2006, Tyler had 4 properties, then 8, then a dozen, each one bought by borrowing against the last and betting the price kept climbing. On paper, he was a millionaire. Then 2008 happened, values dropped, the refinancing dried up, and Tyler discovered he didn't own 12 houses, he owed 12 mortgages with no equity left to pull and renters who'd just lost their own jobs. The leverage that built him in 3 years erased him in 6 months. That's the hack. It runs entirely on borrowed money and good timing, and the moment either one turns, it turns on you. The short-term rental version is essentially dead. Major cities have finished their rollouts of total bans, and the passive income has turned into a full-time legal battle. Every neighbor with a spare room is now your competitor in a saturated market. Here's the honest asterisk, though. One version of real estate is real and boring. Buy a place, rent out the spare room / your own biggest expense. Hold that thought, because that one isn't a hack. That's just smart. The Empire version works for a few operators with capital, nerve, and timing, and gets sold to everyone else as a shortcut it isn't. Number 4, side hustles. And I have to be careful here because this one isn't a scam, it's just wearing the wrong costume. It's extra income in a trench coat, pretending to be a wealth strategy. Let's actually run one. Say you drive for a rideshare app on weekends and pull in $800 in a month. Sounds decent. Now, subtract the gas, subtract the extra insurance, subtract the self-employment tax you owe yourself, and subtract the depreciation your car is silently eating every mile. By the time you're done, that $800 quietly becomes more like $14 or $15 an hour, and you hand it over every weekend to earn it. But the real problem isn't the wage, it's that a side hustle doesn't compound. You trade an hour, you get paid for an hour, the hour is gone, and tomorrow you start over. It's a faster hamster wheel. Still a wheel. And it eats the one resource you most need to actually grow your energy. Every Saturday driving strangers around is a Saturday you didn't spend getting better at the thing that already pays you 40 hours a week. Now, the exception that proves the rule, a side hustle that becomes a real business or one that builds a skill you can sell for more, that one graduates onto the works list. But as a permanent plan, trading more hours for more linear dollars is just a second job you gave yourself with worse benefits. Great bridge, terrible destination. Number 5, and this one's going to upset the nicest people in my comments. Dividend investing, the idea that loading up on high dividend stocks is its own special road to passive income. Here's what the dream leaves out. A dividend isn't free money falling from the sky. When a company pays you $1, its share price drops by about $1. You didn't gain anything, you moved $1 from one pocket to the other, and now you owe tax on it. What actually matters is total return, the price and the dividends together, and when you chase the fattest yields, you often grab companies paying big precisely because they're in trouble. Owning dividend stocks is fine, plenty of great companies pay them, but dividend chasing as its own strategy is just regular investing wearing a fake mustache, fine to own, doesn't deserve its own pedestal. So let's take stock. Day trading, gone. Crypto, gone. Real estate hacks, gone for most. Side hustles, gone. Dividend chasing, gone. That's 5 of the 8. And if you're sitting there thinking nothing works, that the whole thing is rigged and there's no way out good, sit in that for 1 second, because that feeling is the exact moment the gurus hook you right before they sell you the 6th thing. The truth is gentler and far more boring. 3 of these work. They just don't trend because nobody can sell a $49 course on them. This is where Anna with the hot dog doing nothing starts to make a lot more sense. Here's the first one, number 6, and the first thing on this list that actually works. Low-cost index funds. You buy one fund, and that fund owns a tiny slice of hundreds, even thousands of companies at once. You're not betting on a stock. You're buying the whole casino and quietly collecting a cut off every table in the building. This is what Anna did, by the way. No charts, one fund, and here's the stat that belongs on a billboard. Over 15 years, around 9 out of 10 professional fund managers, people in suits who do this all day for enormous salaries, fail to beat that one boring fund. 9 out of 10. The geniuses lose to the index not because they're dumb, but because their fees and their trading slowly bleed them while the index just sits there owning everything and winning. The market has historically returned around 10% a year before inflation, roughly 7% after. So watch what Anna's boring fund does. $500 a month at 7% is about $560,000 in 30 years. Give it 40 and it crosses 1.2 million and you only put in about 240,000 of that yourself. The rest is compounding, working the night shift while you sleep. There's one catch, and it isn't the fund, it's you. The average investor earns far less than the market, not because they picked wrong, but because they sell in a panic when it dips and buy back once it's high. The fund never fails, the hand on the sell button does. It's the closest thing to a cheat code that exists, and it's available to literally everyone with $10 and a little patience. Number 7, and it's so obvious the entire internet conspires to distract you from it. Raise your income. Here's the truth the trading gurus need you to ignore. When you're starting out, your savings rate matters more than your returns because a brilliant 10% return on the $200 you scrape together is $20. Earning more is the lever with no ceiling and the best odds on this entire list. Run the numbers. Say you're 28 and you talk your way from 82,000 to 90. That's $8,000 more a year. Invest that gap every year at 7%. And over 30 years, that one conversation, the one that lasted maybe 20 minutes, turns into more than $800,000. One slightly uncomfortable meeting, almost $1 million on the far side of it. Christoph stared at charts for 5 years, chasing what a single raise hands Anna for free. And getting genuinely good at something people will pay for is the highest probability wealth move there is. It's just that nobody can sell you a course on become excellent at your actual job, so it never trends. The single best income stream I ever built, it's the one you're watching right now. Hold that thought, I'm coming back to it in a minute because it might be the most useful thing in this whole video. But first, the last of the 3, and it's the most powerful of all of them. Number 8, the last one that works and the one that sounds the most like your grandmother whispering through a coupon book. Your savings rate, the simple gap between what you earn and what you spend. I know, try to contain your excitement, but watch what this unglamorous little number actually does. Your savings rate is the only thing on this list that controls both sides of the equation at once. It's the money you keep and feed to the index fund, and it's proof of how cheaply you can live, which decides how little you'll ever need. It does double duty. Here's the math that reframes everything. Save 15% of your income and you're looking at roughly 40-something years to freedom. Bump it to 50% and that drops to around 17 years. Push it to 65 and you're free in about a decade. Same person, same job even. The only thing that changed is the gap. And it works at any income. That's the part that breaks people's brains. A high earner who spends every dime is on a longer timeline than a modest earner who's disciplined. It's why some people pulling great money feel broke forever, and people like Anna, earning the same as Christoph, end up quietly free. That's the boring engine. Index funds, income, savings rate, none of them sexy, all of them real. And together, they're the whole machine. Your grandmother, it turns out, was just early. Now, I can already hear the objection forming because I get it every time. But Nick, I know a guy who made a fortune flipping houses. My cousin tripled his money on a coin. The trader on my feed posts Lamborghinis and Yeah, those people exist. That's the whole trick. The ceiling is real. Somebody's always standing on it, waving. But for every one of them, there are 99 you never hear from because losing quietly doesn't make content. The winners are loud and the losers are invisible, so your feed hands you a rigged sample and calls it normal. The plural of one lucky cousin isn't a strategy, it's survivorship bias with a nice watch. So let's go back to the barbecue. 5 years on, Christoph has 6 monitors, 100 screenshots of his green days he'll happily show you, 0 of the red ones, and a net worth that's, and I checked because he tells anyone who asks basically where he started. He spent half a decade as the most financially active person any of us knew, and the market quietly handed his returns to people who never opened a chart. Anna's still eating hot dogs. She also automated 500 a month into an index fund, talked her way into 2 raises, stayed in the same apartment after both of them, and rented out her spare room for 2 years. She did nothing loud. She did everything quiet. And she's now somewhere north of 100 grand ahead of the guy with 6 monitors. Here's what I actually need you to hear. Christoph isn't dumb, and you're not dumb if you've chased the shiny stuff. The whole machine is built to point you at the exciting losers because somebody makes money every time you trade, subscribe, or buy the course. Nobody makes a dime when you quietly buy an index fund and go for a walk. So let me give you permission to be boring, to opt out of the casino entirely. The people who build real wealth aren't smarter than you. They just stopped chasing the ceiling and started building the median on purpose. And that's when I get the same question every time. Okay, Nick, the index fund I get, but how do I actually move the income side? For me, the answer was the channel you're watching right now. A faceless finance YouTube channel, no face, no fancy gear, just research, a script, and a voice. It's the income stream I built and the rare one that actually compounds because a video you make once keeps getting watched for years. I put the entire playbook in our school community, finding topics, researching, scripting, all of it step by step. If number 7 is the one that lit you up, that's your starting line. Links in the description. Look, I know the boring 3 don't make great thumbnails. No Lamborghini, no 6 monitors, no screenshot of a 5-figure day. Just a normal person, quietly buying the whole market, slowly earning more, and spending less than they make, year after unremarkable year. But that's the secret nobody can sell you. Wealth was never the exciting part. Wealth is the quiet part, the boring engine running in the background while you go live your actual life. And remember the clock. 5 of these 8 will take your money, your time, or both and hand you a great story about how you almost made it. The other 3 just work if you let them and if you can stand how unexciting working looks up close. So pick the boring 3 and start one this week, open the account, ask for the raise, or come build the channel with us. Because 5 years from now, you'll be 5 years older either way. The only question is whether you spent them like Christoph or like Anna.